Most of us think we understand our own lives because we can explain them. We explain our emotions psychologically, our actions socially, our choices biographically. Phenomenology begins by interrupting that habit. Edmund Husserl famously summarized this interruption with the call back to the things themselves. What if, instead of explaining your experiences, you first learned how to see them? Today, we will explore eidetic reduction, a core phenomenological method in the work of Adolf Reinach, a thinker who showed that phenomenology doesn't stop at inner life. It reveals the hidden structures of our social world. And then we will ask the most relevant question: how can this way of seeing actually be used by ordinary people living ordinary lives? Phenomenology begins with a simple refusal: don't explain experience yet. Instead of asking whether something is real, caused, or useful, phenomenology asks, how does it appear to us? What if given directly? And which or what structures make this experience what it is? This is where epoch comes in, the suspension of judgments about the external world. You're not denying reality, you're just setting aside assumptions about it. And eidetic reduction goes one step further. So, what is eidetic reduction? Eidetic reduction is the method phenomenology uses to uncover essences. An essence is not a mystical core or hidden substance, it's the necessary structure without which an experience would no longer be what it is. Husserl describes the method through free imaginative variation. We begin an experience in imagination to see what can change and what cannot, without the experience collapsing into something else. As for our example regarding this, take promise making. Promises are being spoken about or allowed or written. Promises are being made sincerely, some promises are reluctantly made, some promises are between friends or strangers or even family. As you vary these features, something invariant remains. A promise always involves another person. A promise always involves binding yourself to that other person or these other people. That invariant structure is what we call the essence. This is where eidetic reduction stops being abstract and starts being more powerful. As for Adolf Reinach, our protagonist, which is one of the earliest phenomenologists working closely with Husserl in Göttingen. But while Husserl focused primarily on consciousness, Reinach asked a different question: what are the essential structures that govern our social reality? In his major work, The A Priori Foundations of the Civil War, in 1913, Reinach makes a striking claim. Through the promise, there comes into being a claim on the one side and an obligation on the other side. This structure exists prior to legal systems, meaning it could be the starting ground for lawmaking. Laws can help recognize promises, laws can help regulate these promises, but it does not create their binding force. That force is eidetic. Imagination preceded all of this. Reinach analyzes what he calls social acts. These include promises, commanding, requests, accusing, or forgiving. It isn't like these acts are private mental events, they have never been. They are world forming in the sense that they help elucidate our understanding of the world. Forming these concepts about our world requires stepping beyond the shores of our own awareness of acknowledgement, as Reinach once emphasized with his quote, The existence of an obligation is independent of whether it is felt or acknowledged. This already corrects a common modern error. Feeling obligated is not the same thing as being obligated. Phenomenology, in Reinach's hands, becomes a tool for ethical clarity, which enables us to view the world from a more open space. So, how do we apply this to our own lives such that it frees us from the burden of our feeling states? We start with clarifying the emotional confusion, aka understanding before explaining why we feel the way we do. Suppose you say, I'm anxious. Phenomenology asks you to slow down and think about it. Husserl writes, these sorts of questions are essential due to the nature of anxiety itself, being more or less directed around uncertainty. Now vary it imaginatively. What if you removed the uncertainty? Does it turn into fear or resolve? Remove your personal stakes. Does it fade into neutral concern? You may discover that anxiety essentially involves anticipatory vulnerability. That insight doesn't cure anxiety, but at least it clarifies it. Reinach can also help with understanding commitments and guilt. For instance, instead of asking, why do I feel guilty? Consider asking, did I actually promise something? Did I perform a social act that created an obligation? Reinach is quite explicit with this. As he said, obligations arise through acts, not through emotions. This distinction alone can help dissolve false guilt and also help with exposing real responsibility. Instead of endlessly narrating who you are to others or to yourself, try the eidetic variation. What can change about me without me ceasing to be myself? What remains ceasing across roles, moods, and situations? That is your defining background. As with every philosophy, it defining background. As with every philosophy, it has its own pros and cons to oneself. In this way, you can gain clarity without turning yourself into a mechanism, for example. Your evaluation to experience as a whole isn't dismissed as illusion or noise, so you learn to become more empathetic and more understanding. Finally, since there will be no speculation beyond what is given, you also tend to face yourself with intellectual sobriety, which alleviates the pressure and provides relief. However, it also doesn't heal by itself, as people can mistake personal intuition for eidetic insight.